Good morning, everyone. Today I want to speak to the weary soul, the one who's been holding it together, who's smiling on the outside but silently breaking inside. If that's you, this message is for you. God sees your struggle and He knows you're tired. Life has a way of wearing us down. The pressures of work, family, finances, health, or simply the weight of trying to be strong for everyone. It can feel like too much, but in the quiet moments when no one else sees the tears you hide or the prayers you whisper through clenched teeth, God sees you. The Bible tells us in Psalm 34:18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. That means when you are at your lowest, God is not distant. He is right there, closer than ever. You might be wondering, if God sees me, why doesn't He fix it? And that's a fair question. But sometimes God doesn't immediately remove the struggle, not because He's ignoring you, but because He's strengthening you, like a potter with clay. He's shaping something beautiful in the process of your pain. Your tiredness is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you've been fighting, praying, and pressing forward, and that matters to God. Isaiah 40:29 reminds us, He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. When you feel like giving up, that's where God's grace kicks in. So breathe. Cry if you need to, rest if you must, but don't quit. Because your struggle is not unseen, and your effort is not in vain. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You are deeply loved by a God who understands every ache of your heart and every ounce of your exhaustion. He sees, He knows, He cares, and He is with you. There are moments in life when the weight you carry becomes invisible to those around you. You go about your day attending to responsibilities, fulfilling obligations, and offering smiles when expected, all the while concealing the storms brewing within. People may applaud your strength without realizing it's being held together by the thinnest thread. In these moments of quiet suffering, it's easy to feel isolated, as though your struggle is unseen, unnoticed, or worse, unimportant. Now, the truth is, God sees you. Not just the version you present to the world, but the real, raw, unfiltered you. He sees the tears that fall when the lights are off and no one else is watching. He hears the prayers you can't even put into words, the sighs, the groans, the silent cries for help. He knows the weight you carry in your heart that no one else can understand. When you're battling silently, feeling like no one notices the effort it takes just to get out of bed or to keep your emotions in check during another exhausting day, remember that God does. He's intimately aware of every detail of your life. The struggles you don't post about, the fears you don't speak aloud, the dreams you've buried because you're too tired to believe in them anymore. Nothing escapes His notice. You are not invisible to Him. You are not overlooked. In fact, Scripture tells us that He knows when you sit and when you rise. He perceives your thoughts from afar. He is not some distant observer. He is a close and compassionate Father who is fully engaged with every part of your journey. So even when the world doesn't see what you are going through, God does. And that truth alone has the power to steady your heart. Tiredness is something we often try to hide or push through, thinking it reflects poorly on us, as if being exhausted means we're not strong enough, faithful enough, or resilient enough. But in reality, being tired isn't a flaw. It's a sign that you've been giving your all. It's a reflection of the battles you've been fighting, the prayers you've been praying, and the responsibilities you've been shouldering day after day. It's a testament to your courage, to the fact that even when everything in you wanted to stop, you kept going. That kind of perseverance, though it leaves you weary, is something sacred. God doesn't look at your tiredness with disappointment. He doesn't measure your worth by your energy levels. Instead, He honors the effort you've put in, the consistency you've maintained, even in the face of adversity, and the way you've kept walking forward when you had every reason to sit down and give up. There's a beauty in that kind of endurance. The world may not always notice it, but God does. And He sees that your tiredness isn't from laziness or lack of faith. It's from fighting through the weight of life with as much strength as you could gather. Every tear you've wiped away quickly so no one would see. Every morning you've risen despite the heaviness in your chest. Every moment you've encouraged someone else while silently needing encouragement yourself. Those are victories. They may not come with applause, but they matter deeply. God knows that behind your exhaustion is a heart that is still beating for others, still hoping for better, still holding on. And that matters more than you realize. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." This verse is more than comforting words. It is a divine promise. When your heart feels shattered into pieces, when you're walking through moments that make breathing feel like a chore, and when the weight of sorrow or disappointment leaves you feeling crushed and incapable of standing on your own, that's not when God walks away. That's exactly when He draws near. He doesn't keep His distance when you're broken. He presses in closer. He becomes your shelter, your quiet companion, your unwavering strength when yours runs dry. There is something deeply personal and intimate about this promise. It doesn't say God watches the brokenhearted from afar. It says He is close, not just aware of your pain, but actively present in the middle of it. He is there when your voice cracks mid-prayer, when you can't find the words to describe what you're feeling, when all you can do is cry. He's not waiting for you to have it all together before He steps in. He is with you in your mess, in your mourning, in your moments of confusion and fatigue. To be brokenhearted is not only about grief. It can be about rejection, betrayal, disappointment, or the slow erosion of hope. To be crushed in spirit is to feel like the weight of life has squeezed every bit of joy and strength out of you. And yet, that's when God says, "I save you. I come close. I rescue you not from a distance but from within your pain." This kind of love doesn't ignore wounds. It enters into them with healing in hand. Doesn't rush past your sorrow. It sits with you in it, holding space until you're ready to rise again. God's closeness isn't reserved for those who feel strong and full of faith. It's promised to the ones who feel broken, tired, and unsure if they can take another step. He is the kind of God who specializes in showing up when everything seems lost. It's natural to wonder why, if God truly sees our pain and knows we're tired, He doesn't simply take the struggle away. That question lives in the quiet corners of our hearts, especially during long seasons of waiting, hardship, or silence. We ask, "If you love me, God, why am I still hurting?" But sometimes God doesn't remove the struggle, not because He is indifferent or distant, but because He is doing something deeper, something eternal, within the very struggle we want to escape. His love does not always come in the form of immediate relief, but in the form of presence, endurance, and transformation. There are times when the difficulty we face becomes the very place where we experience God most intimately. It's in the wilderness seasons, when we feel lost, confused, and stretched beyond our limits, that we discover how near He truly is. When we don't have the strength to walk on our own, that's when we feel the steadiness of His hand holding us up. When the pain is too much to bear alone, that's when we learn He's been bearing it with us all along. His silence doesn't mean absence. His delay doesn't mean denial. Sometimes His love allows the pressure because He knows what it's producing. Faith that's real, character that's refined, trust that's unshakable. God is not in a hurry like we are. He sees the full picture while we only see fragments. And though it's hard to understand in the middle of the pain, He is doing something through the very things that make us weary. He is teaching us to depend on Him, to lean into His strength instead of our own, to let go of control and walk by faith instead of sight. In every struggle we face, He is present not just as a distant observer, but as a loving Father who knows what we need even more than we do. He walks with us through the fire, not to burn us, but to refine us, to reveal His faithfulness, and to remind us that we're never alone, even in the heat of the trial. Pain is one of the most powerful teachers we encounter in life, though it often arrives uninvited and stays longer than we would ever choose. In the moment, it can feel senseless, like chaos, like punishment, like something that serves no purpose other than to break us. But when we view it through the lens of God's love and sovereignty, we begin to see that even our pain is not wasted. There is a purpose in the process, even when the process hurts. God never allows anything into our lives without weaving it into a greater plan. That doesn't mean the pain is good, but it does mean that He is good enough to bring something meaningful out of it. God is always working in ways we can't immediately see. The refining of gold requires heat. The growth of a tree requires time, storms, and seasons. Likewise, our spiritual growth often takes root during the most difficult seasons of our lives. The tears we cry, the questions we ask, the ache we feel in our waiting or our wrestling, these things are not signs of spiritual failure. They are part of a divine process of becoming. God is forming resilience in our hearts, depth in our character, and dependence in our spirit. He's developing the kind of faith that doesn't crumble under pressure, but endures and matures through it. We often pray for strength, for wisdom, for peace, and sometimes the very challenges we face are the answers to those prayers in disguise. They push us to rely on God more deeply, to surrender our will more fully, and to discover the kind of peace that comes not from our circumstances, but from His presence. What feels like breaking may actually be God making space for something new, something stronger, something more rooted in Him. It's in our seasons of struggle that we often discover who we really are, and more importantly, who God truly is. The pain reveals the things we can live without and the one we cannot. And as hard as it is to endure, the process produces a faith that's not shallow, not easily shaken, but solid and tested. What we walk through with God shapes us in ways that comfort never could. Isaiah 42:29 tells us, He gives strength to the weary and increases the power. It's not just a poetic verse. It's a profound promise from God to anyone who feels worn down, drained, or too weak to continue. Life has a way of slowly depleting our energy, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. There are days when getting through feels like a battle, when the simplest tasks feel monumental, and when your inner strength feels like it's run dry. But in those exact moments, when your personal reserves are empty, that's when God steps in, not to criticize your weakness, but to fill you with His strength. God never asks you to power through life on your own. He never expects you to be self-sufficient or endlessly strong without help. In fact, Scripture often reminds us that human weakness is the perfect space for divine strength to operate. It's not your might or endurance that carries you through. It's His grace poured into your weariness. God isn't looking for perfection. He's looking for hearts willing to lean on Him when they can no longer stand alone. When you acknowledge your weakness and reach out to Him, you're not failing. You're aligning yourself with the source of supernatural strength. This divine strength isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it shows up in the ability to take just one more step, to wake up and try again, to find a flicker of hope where there used to be despair. It shows up in the small victories, in the way you hold on when everything tells you to let go, in the way you speak kindness even when you're hurting, in the quiet endurance that no one else sees. That is God's strength working within you. When you are weak, you're not abandoned, you're being held. His strength is not limited by your limitations. In fact, the very moment you feel you can't do it anymore is often the doorway through which His power enters most clearly. He doesn't just top off your energy like a quick fix. He becomes a sustaining force. He gives you more than survival. He gives you power even in your lowest moments. In a world that constantly demands our strength, our composure, and our performance, it can feel almost wrong to admit when we're exhausted or overwhelmed. We're told to keep going, stay strong, push through, and keep smiling, even when our hearts are breaking and our souls are worn thin. But here's the truth: you are allowed to rest. You are allowed to cry. You are allowed to feel what you feel, without shame, without guilt, and without pretending that everything is okay. God never asks you to be superhuman. He simply asks you to be honest with Him, to come as you are with all your weariness, your tears, and your weakness. Crying does not mean you lack faith. Resting does not mean you've given up. In fact, both are deeply spiritual responses to overwhelming circumstances. When you cry, you're releasing the burdens that have become too heavy to carry alone. When you rest, you're admitting that you can't do everything in your own strength. And that's where God's grace begins to carry you. Jesus Himself wept. He took time to withdraw from the crowds to rest and pray. If even the Son of God needed those moments, how much more do we? The beauty of God's heart is that He doesn't rebuke you for being tired. He invites you into His rest. Matthew 11:28 echoes that invitation. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. That rest isn't just physical, it's so deep. It's a rest that quiets your anxious thoughts, soothes your bruised spirit, and reminds you that your worth is not tied to your productivity. God is not disappointed in your need for a break. He designed you with limits so you would always remember your need for Him. There is strength in surrender, and there is healing in honesty. Allowing yourself to feel, to pause, to step back is not weakness, it's wisdom. And in those moments of stillness and vulnerability, God doesn't walk away. He draws near. He holds you, comforts you, and reassures you that even in your most fragile state, you are deeply loved and fully accepted. It's one of the deepest fears we carry when we're going through hard times. The fear that somehow, in the middle of all the chaos and silence, God has forgotten us, that He's overlooked our pain, passed us by, or turned His attention elsewhere. When prayers seem to go unanswered and the nights grow long and heavy, it's easy to start wondering if He still sees us, if He still cares, if we still matter to Him. But the truth that anchors us in the storm is this: your struggle does not mean God has forgotten you. His love is not based on how easy or difficult your life is. It's not withdrawn when you're in pain or delayed when you're in need. God's memory is perfect, and His attention to your life is constant even when you don't feel it. There's a difference between being forgotten and being in a process. Just because you haven't seen the breakthrough yet doesn't mean God has left you. Sometimes He is working behind the scenes, arranging things you can't see, shaping outcomes you wouldn't even know to ask for. It may feel like nothing is happening, but God is often most active in the silence. He sees the tears you cry in secret. He hears the thoughts you're too afraid to voice. He knows the dreams you've tucked away, because disappointment taught you to lower your expectations. And yet, in the middle of all of it, He is still with you, still aware, still writing your story with care and precision. When we look at scripture, we see this pattern again and again. Joseph was in prison, wrongly accused and forgotten by people, but never forgotten by God. Hagar, running into the wilderness, thought no one saw her pain until God met her and she named Him Elohi, the God who sees me. Time and again, God proves that His eyes never leave His children. Even when others forget, even when you feel invisible, you are seen by the one who matters. Your struggle is not a sign of divine absence. It's a space where divine intimacy can grow. God is not late. He is not indifferent. He is not forgetful. He is present, and He is faithful even in the silence. One of the most painful misconceptions we can fall into during times of struggle is believing that God is trying to break us, that the challenges we face are meant to punish us or diminish us. But the truth is far more beautiful and redemptive. God uses trials not to break us, but to shape us, to refine us, and to bring something deeper and stronger out of us. Just like a skilled sculptor chips away at a block of marble to reveal the beauty within, God allows pressure and difficulty in our lives not to harm us, but to reveal the strength, character, and purpose He's placed inside us. These processes can feel excruciating at times because it touches parts of our lives we've tried to protect, the areas where we feel weakest, most insecure, or most afraid. But it's in those exact places that God does His deepest work. He doesn't waste pain. Every tear you've cried, every unanswered question, every long night of wondering why, it's not for nothing. God uses it to cultivate something within you that comfort never could. He uses it to refine your faith, deepen your trust, and build spiritual endurance that lasts far beyond the temporary circumstances. Think of how fire purifies gold. It's not an easy process. The heat is intense, the impurities rise to the surface, but in the end, the gold becomes more radiant, more valuable, more refined. In the same way, your trials may feel like fire, but they are producing something of eternal worth in you. James 1:4 reminds us to consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perceived. God is not interested in superficial strength or outward appearances. He is after a resilient, grounded, unshakable faith, a faith that knows even in the dark that He is good. So, when the pressure feels unbearable, when life feels like more than you can carry, remember this: you are not being destroyed. You are being developed. God is shaping you into someone who doesn't just survive the storm, but stands stronger because of it. It's often said that you don't know the depth of someone's character until they've faced adversity. And in many ways, that's true. It's easy to love life and trust God when everything is going well, when things are smooth, and when you are surrounded by comfort. But the real test of faith and character comes in the midst of hardship. When life doesn't go according to plan, when pain knocks on your door, or when you feel the weight of the world on your shoulder. The struggle doesn't just reveal our weaknesses, though. It reveals who God is in the deepest parts of our hearts. In the quiet moments when we feel the most alone, God often speaks the loudest. When everything around us feels uncertain, He stands as the only constant. The moments when we are the weakest are often the times when we most clearly see the strength, love, and grace of God. His faithfulness shines brightest in the darkest of seasons. He doesn't just come alongside us in our struggles. He enters into them with us, and through that, He shows us a deeper side of Himself. He is not a distant deity who watches us suffer from afar. He is Emmanuel, God with us, always present, always near, even when we can't see Him. It's in the harder seasons that we come to realize that God is enough. The strength we're looking for isn't found in our own abilities, achievements, or understanding. It's found in Him. His presence is enough to carry us through our darkest days. His peace is enough to calm the storm in our hearts. And His love is enough to heal every wound. These realizations don't come all at once. They come through experience. So the struggle we begin to trust, not in what we can control, but in the One who holds everything together. And through that trust, we grow. Struggles are not wasted seasons. They are the training grounds where our faith is tested, refined, and made more real. We learn to rely less on our own strength and more on the One who has all strength. We learn to lean not on our own understanding, but on His perfect wisdom. The hard times teach us to stop relying on the fleeting things of this world and to place our hope in the eternal promises of God. We learn that while our circumstances may change, God's character never does. His faithfulness is unshakable. His love is relentless, and His goodness never fails. One of the greatest sources of comfort in times of difficulty is knowing that God doesn't just see your struggle and acknowledge your weariness, He also understands them. He is not a distant observer of your life, removed from the pain and trials you are experiencing. He is a compassionate God who knows exactly what it feels like to suffer, to feel rejected, to experience loss, and to wrestle with deep emotions. When we go through seasons of exhaustion or heartbreak, it's easy to feel as though we are alone in our pain. But the truth is, Jesus himself walked through the full spectrum of human suffering. He experienced fatigue, hunger, sorrow, betrayal, and ultimately the agony of the cross. He knows what it is to be weary, and he knows what it is to be tired in ways that go beyond the physical. In Hebrews 4:15, we are reminded that Jesus is a high priest who can sympathize with our weaknesses. He is not a God who stands above the fray, untouched by our struggles. He understands what it feels like to be human, because he lived it. When you feel overwhelmed by your circumstances, remember that Jesus knows the weight of what you are carrying. He's walked that road before, and he's never indifferent to your pain. He knows the frustration of being misunderstood, the heartache of feeling alone, and the weariness of carrying burdens that seem too heavy to bear. And yet in all of that, he continued to trust God's plan and walk in obedience to the Father's will. What makes his understanding so profound is that he didn't simply observe suffering from a distance, he entered into it. He took on flesh, lived among us, and experienced the full range of human emotions and difficulties. So when you cry out to God in the midst of your weariness, know that you're not crying out to a God who is detached or removed from your pain. You're crying out to a Savior who knows exactly what you're going through, who has felt the weight of suffering, and who has experienced the deepest forms of pain. This understanding gives us confidence that God doesn't just offer a theoretical response to our struggles, he offers a compassionate, personal presence. When you feel misunderstood, or as though no one else can truly comprehend the depth of your exhaustion or sorrow, you can take comfort in the fact that Jesus does. Promo Espidal song. His understanding of our struggles invites us to come to him just as we are, with all of our questions, pain, and weariness, knowing he will respond with empathy, kindness, and grace. He doesn't just see us in our struggles, he understands them deeply, and he meets us in the midst of them with the love and comfort we so desperately need. In the midst of struggle and weariness, it's easy to forget that God's love for us is not performance-based. We often fall into the trap of thinking that if we're not doing enough, achieving enough, or staying strong enough, then somehow we've lost God's favor or his love. But the truth is, God's love is not conditional. It doesn't fluctuate based on our successes or failures. It is steadfast, constant, and unchanging. You are loved not because of what you can do or how well you can handle life's challenges, but simply because you are his child. His love for you is not tied to how much you can endure or how well you can carry your burdens. It is rooted in who you are to him. We live in a world that often rewards productivity, achievement, and strength. But God's love doesn't work that way. He doesn't love us because we are strong or because we can carry the weight of our struggles with a smile. In fact, it is in our weakness, our vulnerability, and our weariness that God's love shines brightest. When you feel like you have nothing left to give, when you feel broken and exhausted, God's love is still there, unwavering. His love does not diminish when you are weak or weary. It deepens. It is in those moments of fragility that we often experience his love in the most profound ways. The beauty of God's love is that it does not require us to earn it. There is nothing we can do to make God love us more, and there is nothing we can do to make Him love us less. His love is a gift, unearned, unmerited, and freely given. And this love is not a distant, abstract concept. It is tangible. It is the kind of love that enters into our pain with us, that holds us when we feel we have nothing left, and that reassures us that we are never alone, no matter how tired, broken, or overwhelmed we may feel. When we are tired, it's easy to begin to question our worth. We may feel like we are failing because we can't keep up, or like we are unworthy because we are not meeting the demands placed on us. But God's love doesn't operate on that scale. His love isn't about what you can do or how much you can carry. It is about who you are to Him, a beloved child, deeply cherished, no matter the state of your heart or your circumstance. You don't have to earn His love, and you don't have to prove yourself to Him. He loves you as you are, in your tiredness, your weakness, and your struggles. That is the foundation of God's love. A love that doesn't waver when life gets hard, but that stands firm, offering peace and assurance even when everything else seems uncertain. As we stand in the midst of our struggles, feeling exhausted, worn, and sometimes overwhelmed, let us take comfort in the truth that God sees our pain and He knows our tiredness. His love for us is not based on our strength or how well we hold it all together. His love is unshakable, unchanging, and everlasting. When we feel like we can't go on, He's right there beside us, offering His strength, His peace, and His unwavering presence. He doesn't promise to take away every difficulty, but He promises to walk with us through every storm. So, no matter where you are today, remember that you are not alone in your struggle. God sees you, He knows you, and He loves you deeply. In your weariness, He is there to lift you up. In your pain, He is there to comfort you. In your tiredness, He is there to give you rest. Trust in His promises, lean into His presence, and know that He is working in ways you may not always see, shaping you and refining you even in the hardest of seasons. Rest in the assurance that He has not forgotten you and He will never leave you. You are held, you are loved, and you are never too tired for Him to come alongside you